Auzu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Dear viewers, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And welcome once again to Why Religion. We bring you this interactive series of program from our MTA Gambia Studios in which we talk about the need for religion. We discuss our questions from our daily life in light of religion. We have interactive discussions. We have chat with our guests who give us detailed answers of our questions. On today's episode, we will be talking about moral training of children. To discuss this topic with me, I am joined by two of the scholars of Ahmadiyya Jamaat here in the Gambia. On my immediate right, I have Brother Musa Kinte, who is serving with the National Majlis Ansarullah of the Gambia. And next to him, I have Brother Said Sambaso, who is serving in the National Majlis Khudamul Ahmadiyya of the Gambia. Two gentlemen who are serving in the auxiliary bodies at national level. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. So, Mr. Kinte, welcome to the program. And let me kick off with the very first question. We are talking about the first stage of a man's life, that is childhood. And that is where training comes in, right? Most of the skills in a person, most of the morals in a person, most of the lessons that someone learns, things that they see, people they start looking up to, happens at a very early age. That is childhood. Now, why is the training of a child very important?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. First of all, the whole topic started earlier on with morals, with good upbringing and doing things the right way, you know. So the training of a child actually is the foundation of the person who will become an adult tomorrow. So it's important that a child knows that not everything that he wants or wants to do should be done anyhow. There are ways that certain basic things, even very, very basic things like eating and drinking, must be done to regulate our lives properly so that we'll become moral beings who will have, that standing in society, that will become models. For instance, we've seen that the Holy Prophet ﷺ himself, who is, of course, for the Muslims, the role model, has done that for children. The grandchild, Hassan, was told by the Holy Prophet at a very young age that he should behave properly. Like, for instance, in eating, he has told the child to eat what is in front of him, and to show good morals, respect food, and not, waste it. And he cannot eat with his mouth very full so that food is spilling all over him and the like. But those basic trainings are things that we should, in our homes, inculcate in our children as they grow up, so that when they get into society as older men and women, they will have had proper training. They call it in the West, or even nowadays it's called table manners, so that they will have proper table manners. But everything starts with the small ones and then builds up to become something important. If people are taught how to behave themselves in the very minute functions of life, for instance, basic things in life, later on in life they will know that the good life of the person is that life that is organized, where he does what he does properly, on the right occasion, the right way, in the right manner. And that's very important.
Right. So, Brother Said, coming over to you now, as Brother Musa has just explained, how training of kids is very important, training of children is very important. Now, when exactly does moral training of a kid start? Does it start from birth? And if so, if it is from the birth, what is the first step that we take as Muslim parents raising our kids? And if it starts later, what are the steps that we still have to take in order to make sure that we are instilling the proper moral training in them?
Zakumullah, thank you very much for having me once again. Like he said, the foundation is very important because that shows who the individual is going to be in the future. The Holy Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as he says, is the role model, and then whatever we are to learn, we learn it from him, because that's what the Holy Quran says, that he has been placed as an excellent role model for us. And the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam knew very well childhood is very important, and this is why he did not make it very light to parents. He makes sure he showed them what to do so that the future of the children is going to be bright. There should be, in general, or even say in reality, the upbringing or the training of children should start even before, well before birth. But the Holy Prophet Muhammad knew the people. Some of them are very weak, some of them are very lazy. Even after the training of children after birth, it becomes very difficult, much more when you have said that you have to start training children before. But even it is there, like the Holy Prophet Muhammad instructed us that if we want to prevent our children to be in the fall of shaitan or to be lacking moral, there is one important thing that we should do, that is the parent themselves. He taught this dua where he's saying that if a man, a husband and a wife are to console each other, well before that they have to pray a dua, which is Bismillahi Allahumma jannibna shaitan wa jannibi shaitani ma razaqtana. It's found in Sahih Bukhari, Kitabul Tawheed. He said that seal us, O Allah, against shaitan and keep shaitan away from whatever the doubt might bestow upon us. Whatever you are granting us, you seal that thing from shaitan. So these people should not see it as something like magic or sort of, or charm, sort of, or where he said when you do it, automatically your child is protected from shaitan. It means you start from there and you build it up. So what he here is trying to tell, or this dua is trying to tell, that shaitan is filthy. So please save us from shaitan, we and our progeny. So that is the first thing that the Holy Prophet in fact taught. So now, coming to your question, that is after birth. The Holy Prophet Muhammad said immediately the child is born, before the naming ceremony has to take place, the first thing that the person has to do is to call azan on the right ear. He said this has an impact not only through sound, he said, but this goes straight to the mind. That is the first step for educating the child. So he said that the second thing is he mentioned about here, he have already started highlighting, that is about having good manners, that is table manners, as he said. And he recorded this. He already highlighted that the Holy Prophet Muhammad was advising his child, that is his grandchild, that is Hashan, who was 2.5 years at that young age. He told him, Ya ghulam, Samillaha wa kul biyaminaka wa kul mimma yalika. O child, whenever you start eating, say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. That is, invoke the name of Allah, whatever you are doing when you are eating, most importantly. He said, and eat with your right hand and eat what is in front of you. Somebody who's at the age of 2, the Holy Prophet is advising that child. So this shows that it is very important to start training your children at a very young age. In another place also, there was a basket that was the Holy Prophet was supposed to distribute of dates, basket filled with dates. He's supposed to give it to others. So the same Hassan who was a child, exactly, which was for Sadaqah, the same Hassan who was very young at that time, eventually took one date and put it in his mouth. So the Holy Prophet, when he noticed this, he put his hand into the mouth and removed the date and told him that this is not for you. Do not eat what does not belong to you. He said this is so, in Hazrat Mirza Basiruddin Mahmud Ahmad, Muslim Maud, he said that this is showing him that you should not develop the habit of depending on people, and you should not develop the habit of overburdening people or others. Try to depend on yourself and try to do things to achieve something that you will use for your life, for your survival. So these are some of the things that the Holy Prophet mentioned. There are a lot. We cannot exhaust them, but few of them as we mentioned here.
Right. Now, Mr. Kinte, there is a saying that a healthy body is a healthy mind. And then in that, a lot of people also believe that to stay healthy, you need to stay in a healthy environment. You need to stay clean and all of this. Now, is there any connection between cleanliness of a child and the child having a clean brain?
Yes. Okay. The question you asked is important. Yes, in Latin it says, mens sano in corpore sano. That is a healthy mind in a healthy body. That means it shows us how the body and the mind and the soul are all related. You know, like the seed and the kernel. You know, encapsulates the kernel. The soul is the most important part, but then the body is the interface between the soul and its environment and everything. So, if you do not keep the environment clean and you don't keep the body clean, it will affect the mind. So, like we have said, the training of, you know, the body conforming to certain discipline to affect the mind and the soul eventually is where we're getting to. So we are saying, first of all, we were told that Azan, for instance, should be called in the year of the child when it is born. Depending on whether it's a male or female, you start with the left, right when it's male, left with it when it's female. So, but the idea is because it is the faculty of hearing that comes into operation first, according to science and everything. So once the child is born, you have started training the child from what it is hearing. It will then go to feel its environment. So the baby, for instance, if they can't take care of themselves when they are babies, in their pampers and their wrappings, you know, they will ease themselves and they will begin to cry. So you're told as a mother that when the child starts crying, there are certain things you look out for. It's either hungry or needs to be cleansed because the probably is not very uncomfortable. The child is feeling uncomfortable in where it is. Maybe because it has eased itself in the wrappings. So you need to clean those. And you can see psychologically affects the mind and the child begins to cry. Or the child is sick. So once those are taken care of, the mind is at ease. So the mind is affected by the environment and the cleanliness. The thoughts, the thinking process, is also affected by the environment. If the body is not clean, and this is not just a child, it goes for every human being. But of course, training starts as, you know, from childhood. So this is an area where mothers will have to put their attention to. Today's day and age, you have a lot of pampering of babies. They will allow the baby to do anything it likes. This is the child whose mind is not mature, and yours is mature. So it is your responsibility to guide this child so that when he grows up, he becomes a useful member of society, and cleanliness becomes part of the life of that child. And where there is cleanliness, certainly we know there will be health. Health is related to cleanliness, the environment and the like. You have people who actually don't care. You go into the house, you go into the environment where they live in, everything is helter-skelter, things are just scattered, you know, everywhere. And they do not separate the clean things from the dirty ones. And when the child grows up in that environment, certainly, when he goes out, he will not realize there is dirt around because that's not the training, the orientation that he has been given from the cradle.
Towards dirt has changed.
That's it.
Right.
So it is important that we start from childhood, and as we grow up, you know, then certain things are inculcated. For instance, it has been taught also, the Holy Prophet said, that to leave the child to walk, bare, will cause it to develop shamelessness. So it's better to clothe them properly. And when they soil themselves, what tends to happen is the genitals will begin to itch, and then the child will start itching, and then will develop sexual sensation from that. So this is how we breed children in the future who will become, who will not know the barrier between, that there should be a barrier between men and women, morality, shamelessness,
a lot of other things are coming in. So now again, just to follow up on that shortly, you've mentioned baby and you've mentioned child, 2 words. Now, most of the time when we speak about children, I as a person would think you're talking about little kids. But what is the age group here that we are talking about for instilling these morals?
Far back to what Said Saib has said. We saw the Holy Prophet started training Hazrat Hassan at the age of 2.5, for instance. As soon as, but we said even before that, because that calling of the azan in the ear of the child happens immediately after the birth. If the faculties begin to develop, you need to guide them on the right path. For instance, the ear starts developing first. And therefore, the first thing that ear should hear is the name of God Almighty, who created, the universe and the child and everybody, parents. So once the child is, hears the name of God, it sticks because that faculty is already in operation. So as he begins to recognize things, then you put the right things before the child. And you're careful as to what the child does. Then you watch his directions, because all his fancies are not things that will be good for him. Because a child will reach out for a flame or fire. You light candle in the house, and they will want to grab it because they don't know. You'll be a foolish mother to follow the child because the child is crying, he wants to grab this flame, and you allow it to grab it. If he grows older, he will know that's my mother's mind. Where was it that he allowed me to hurt myself this way? So that's the same philosophy. Guide the child as to what is right, so that the habit is inculcated in him. And then he grows up to show that good habit anywhere he goes. Because when they see your child, they see you. If you are a messed up guy, the child, it will show. A good tree is known by its fruits.
Its fruits, definitely.
This is important.
Yeah. So you're talking about formation of habit. Now, Brother Said, following on to formation of habits, I've heard this from people that feeding children, right, on regular timing is very important. Getting them used to relieving themselves, nature's call and other things at regular times is very important. What is the science behind this?
Zakumullah, just like what Brother Musa said, the Holy Prophet Muhammad said this. He said, "At-tuhuru satrul iman." He said, cleanliness is part of faith. So all what we are talking about here, we are trying to see what the child is going to develop in the future, what the child faith is going to be like. Because one criterion is cleanness. The Holy Prophet said, cleanness is part of faith. So if the child, this habit of cleanness is inculcated in the child, as the child develops, then the child is likely to have a faith, a very good faith, like that of Islam. So eventually, the child will develop good moral. And that is why there is a saying which says that a child whose hands are clean can sit with elders or eat with elders. Understand? So all this comes from the trend of parents. Like he said, when your child is misbehaving or child does not have good morals, they see you. Eventually, the blame will come to you. So like you said, even Muslim talk about this, like feeding the child at fixed hours is very important. He said, let me just quote what he said. He said, this will breed a habit of self-control and save it from a number of evils. If the child is fed at regular or fixed hours, the child will be able to control itself. Not any time the child want to eat, the child have the food. So like he said, if a child is given food at any time the child want, the child will waste more and use less. Most of the time, because the child is not hungry, just the moment child want to get something, they just go and
sometimes they do it for
exactly.
attention as well.
For
They just
attention,
start
or
crying.
sometimes for enjoyment. In
Right.
fact, you see the child playing with the food. It's not eating, but it's wasting. So that is why it is important you tell the child at an early age, or show the child at an early age, this is the particular time for eating. You will see that the child will be there, and also the child will not waste that food that is going to eat, because the child will know that if I waste this food, I will not able to have another food. So one important, as Muslim mentioned, said that it will breed the habit of self-control and save it from evil, that is wasting of food. He said also, lack of self-control occasions evil like stealing. If the child is used to having anything the child wants at any moment, if the child did not have it on particular occasion, he or she will eventually try to steal so that he or she will satisfy his or her needs. So that's why he said that if the child lacks this self-control, the child may eventually develop the habit of stealing. He said, example, and other thing. He said, such a child does not learn to resist temptation too. He said, the fault lies with the mother, who is ever ready to feed the child anytime it cries. He said, this fault, the child could not develop the self-control habit, and the child could not learn to resist temptation, and the child is involved in wasting of food, and the child is involved in stealing. He said all these habits are as a result of the mother, because the mother is supposed to be the individual who to train this child to know this properly. He said because the mother is giving the child whatever the child cries for at any time it wants. He continues to say it is a great mistake to not inculcate regular food habits in the infant and in the growth of child. He said also the other thing is punctuality. If the child is taught this feeding at fixed hour, the child will develop the habit of punctuality, self-control, good health, and cooperation. These are all important. It's even stated that sometimes there are certain times when you eat, for example, you eat, you are not hungry. This is not good for the body. The body needs food when it is hungry. So these are some of the important things why it's necessary for children to be fed at fixed hours.
All right. Now, so you've spoken about self-control there, which is very important. Now, Mr. Kinde, we always say that children's training need to start very early for them to be better people in the society when they've grown up. And then we also believe that a society is made up of people, everyone with their own individual characteristics, with their own individual morals, their lifestyle basically, right, with their goods and bads coming together to form a society in general. Self-confidence is a very, important, integral part of anyone's life. But again, we see that there is a very thin line between being rude and being self-confident. And again, a very thin line between self-confident and being overconfident. Now, what is your take on this? Should a child be encouraged to be self-confident? And how should we go about it?
Yes, your question is, should a child be allowed to have self-confidence as a matter of habit? The answer is yes, because this is important as he grows up and as he faces society and the world with all the challenges that are going to come his way anyway. So like we said, the training is preparing the child for the real world.
Right.
So the real world is challenging, we all know, in various ways. And for him to come across those challenges and be able to overcome them and stay his ground and remain, he needs to be trained in that way. So self-confidence is important. But like as I said, referring to Said said, you need to feed them at regular hours so that they learn to control their emotions. It's not whenever the child cries and whatever he demands, the mother should just give. Because that's not the real world. The real world is not all that you want that you get.
Right.
Yeah, so you should learn to be, patient, and also to be self-reliant. So there'll be no stealing. There'll be even less begging, because you will want to rely on yourself. You'll be ashamed of asking others to give you what they have toiled for, when you have also the capacity to do good and achieve good. So that kind of confidence in yourself is necessary.
Right.
But it does not come on its own. It is built from the home. It is letting the child know that you're growing up, and what other children can do, you can also do. Even where the parents are not present, carry yourself with confidence. Rely on the training that you have acquired at home, and show people that you can do well. When you sit in the classroom, for instance, exert yourself, and perform well. So these are very good things, and they will tend to take the child away from all those evil things, that dependence on other people and not relying on yourself can bring about. For instance, let's say a child that doesn't have that self-confidence. What's the drawback? When he gets into society, he is timid. Easily frightened, cannot face challenges, will always, scurry back home and pester the parents for his own failure amongst his peers. These are issues that you cannot be doing. You as a parent cannot be acting instead of the child.
Now, following up on that, just briefly, very shortly, if you would explain, how do we define, like you've explained, if a child is not self-confident, they turn up to be timid people. But a lot of parents would take this plea that, I don't want my kid to be rude. I don't want him to talk back to people. How do you define the difference? How do you define that thin line between being rude and arrogant and self-confidence for training of a child?
There is a huge difference between these two. What I'm saying is having confidence in yourself, believing that you can do good. That's the confidence I'm talking about.
All right.
Not giving it back to people. What I'm saying, that's not confidence. And at times that is a sign of weakness itself. You fight back. You tend to blame others for probably shortcomings that are your shortcomings. It will be self-confidence. It will be manly for you to take what comes your way, but with grace. For instance, if you go to school and some ill-trained child, comes your way and insults you, or tells you something that is annoying, or does something to you that's not good, how do you handle it? This is where I'm saying where self-confidence comes in. Whereas where all the training you have acquired at home should be brought to bear, and then you look at the situation and say, well, it is good to talk back here, or sometimes this is where I should reserve my opinion and allow this thing to go. This is where I should not react. This is where I should report to authority.
Right.
Because it's getting overboard, and I may not be able to withstand it, and may lead to, further problems. So you take your steps, but you take steps that, with wisdom, of course, that are capable of solving the problem and not aggravating it. But all this is as a result of training from home. So that's why the home is so important, and that's why the role of the mother. We keep saying mother. But also it is us, the fathers, who should also be training the mothers to train the children. We may not be spending all our time at home because we need to go and fetch, we need to go and fend, we need to go and work to make sure that the family is fed. But basic trainings, like when you are in our leisure hours, sit with the mother and look at how the mother-child relationship is, and giving some directives. And, probably wake up in the morning, say your Fajr prayer, and read some portion of hadith that has to do with morals, Quranic verses to your children. This behoves every parent.
Right.
Because else, on the day of judgment, when you're supposed to be held accountable before God Almighty, what are you going to say? So the training of your family is a responsibility first on the head of the family, who is the husband in the house or the father, and then subsequently it is yes, it's delegated to
the mother. And then
mother,
obviously
and
it becomes responsibility of every member of the family to make sure that any child who's in that family is trained properly and instill good morals in them. Thank you very much for your time today, gentlemen. Dear viewers, this brings us to end of today's episode. To read more on this very topic and to read more about Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat and our beliefs, kindly visit www.alislam.org. That is the official website of Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat. And this very topic is from the book of Hazrat Muslim Maud radiyallahu anhu, who is the second Khalifa of Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat. The book is titled Ways of the Seekers. Until we come your way again, I am your host Sayyid Salim Raza. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.